want to hear clearly. Some advice that you needed dearly. Don't waver, fill your stacks up yearly.
Well, good morning or good afternoon or whenever you're listening and watching to this. Welcome to the Distinctive Agent Show. I have got Keenan, the kid, the rapping realtor on the podcast today.
Let's
What's up, bro?
Let's go. What up, man? Good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
All of those
Name that
things,
movie.
depending. That's right. No, what movie is it?
Truman Show.
There you go. I didn't see it. Sorry. That's not my deal.
And
anyway,
we're here with Todd Conklin, the Todd father, the man, the myth, the legend. Just out here grinding, man, grinding every day.
Beautiful. Awesome. Well, man, it's good to be back with you. I don't know. I've got something on my head, my heart, and I just want to jump in if that's okay with you.
Do it.
So there's a saying, this line that says success leaves clues, and we're watching the market change right now. And listen, when I say we're watching the market change, like that's not out like, oh my gosh, the sky is falling. Yeah, things change, right? That just is what it is. And that which goes up has to come down, and that which goes to the left has to go to the right, and so on and so forth. So it's just change. But I was thinking about this the other day. Like, yeah, success totally leaves clues, and we can go back and sort of identify the go-to plays that work for us, and those are the areas where we can always go back to. But you know what else leaves clues? Failure. Leaves clues.
Oh yeah.
Right. And there's this idea that we would go through, and again, I was in the business in 2006, 7, 8, 9, 10, so on and so forth. And so I remember those days. I remember what took place. I remember some of the mistakes that were made. I also remember some of the things that I didn't do that I probably should have done, et cetera. And I don't know, market's changing. I like to think that I learned something. There's a ton of real estate professionals, over 2 million of them in the country. And I got to believe that based on the data points, probably less than 40% of those were in the business in 2008.
I bet less.
Yeah. I mean, the data says that it's what, 13%?
Yeah.
So if that's the case, then this market shift could really inflict some incredible pain on some folks. And so what I'd like to do today is just kind of talk through, hey, let's learn from some of those, right? Let's look at some of the clues for the success and the failure, and maybe impart some wisdom. Now, this will be interesting because when did you start selling real estate?
2015.
Yeah. So I'm going to be the old man of the sea, and you're going to be the young man of opportunity. How's that?
Yeah. Oh yeah. And it'll be great because you've been through the market, you've been through the ups and downs, where honestly, for me, I got in real estate when the market had just started getting better, and it's been just a nice incline for me the past 7 years. So yeah, I love to hear what your opinions on things and the way you think about it, because it's going to be different.
Well, I wrote down 10, and they vary from Drucker to Robbins to everything else. So I'm just going to dig in. Number one on my list is manage thyself. First, manage thyself. There was an article that came out this morning. It was talking about all the different companies that were doing layoffs. And, they're all the names that you and I know, right? The guaranteed rates, the Keller Williams, the Zillows, the Domas, Homies, whatever. Like all of these companies that were the so-called disruptors of the world, they were saying that they were going to, disintermediate real estate agents. They were going to deliver a better experience for less money, blah, 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 blah. And they're all having to cut people right now. They're having
because
layoffs.
they're realizing
Rex went out of business.
They're not making enough money. You do it for a cheaper rate and you expect to do the same service. Yeah, you ain't gonna make it.
No, you're not gonna make it. And so, I think this, to me, that's what this first manage thyself really meant to me. Like, we've done a pretty good job. And don't get me wrong, I get myself kind of twisted in knots sometimes thinking about a quote unquote competitor. But at the end of the day, we do what God has called us to do. I got a great relationship with Him, and I feel like I've got Him on the bat phone, and he tells me, hey, this is the direction you need to go, and you've got to be resilient. You got to manage yourself. You got to be your own cheerleader. You've got to, that kind of thing. What does this all mean to you?
It just means to me that even in the good times and the bad times, just that our mental health, that our spiritual relationships, our relationships daily all need to be in a good place, and we need to be in a good mental space. I think it's been really easy the last 3 4 years in real estate to just ride it and wake up and you can be hungover and go to a listing appointment and get it. And that's not going to be the way it's going to work anymore. It's going to get tougher, and we're going to see people who aren't in the right mental headspace who are going to say, you know what, like, I'm really struggling, and they will stop working. And because the market's tough, we're already seeing that. We're seeing people kind of giving up and just, nah, it's hard. The market's shifting. And, that's right there. Manage thyself. What are your goals? What are the things that you want to accomplish? And yeah, I mean, you got to have that in the good times and the bad for sure.
Yeah. And listen, I mean, you're only in control of yourself. You have literally no control over what the economy is going to do. You have no control over what gas prices or inflation or interest rates. It just to even worry about it is literally a waste of time. If you
100%.
will stay focused on the things that you have control over, which is only you, that's great. I would say the if you want to be sort of that leader, that knowledge broker, that one where things are real, that the consumers are coming to, you need to be exceptional because nobody looking to have an exceptional experience, no one looking to work with somebody exceptional is going to ever call an average.
Oh yeah.
We see that all over the place, right? And exceptional to me, and you have to define it for you again, because it's probably managing myself. Exceptional for me is taking the time, spending the time to understand really what's going on in the market, um, taking the time to practice and role play, what it is. How do I communicate those messages? I don't know. We could sit here for hours, but
Oh yeah. Yeah. Manage thyself though. Huge.
yeah,
Huge.
yeah. All right, number two, do what you're made for. Do what you're made for.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Finding that why is very very important, and then executing it. Because if you're not, you're gonna be unhappy. You're gonna be unhappy in your job, especially when it gets tougher. When the market's
Yeah.
getting tough, and I don't have a clear, distinct why I'm doing this and what I want to do with my life, then it's just gonna get harder.
You know, it's interesting. I don't know if most people know this stat, but there are over 2 million licensed professionals, and the average income of a real estate professional is under $45,000. I think
Ooh.
people think that the average real estate professional is just making tons of cash. What this is really saying though is that 75% of the business is done by 51% of the agents.
Yep.
Think about that. So what
Yep.
we're really saying is that only half the agents do any business.
Mhm.
So now we're down to, let's call it a million people. And then by the way, the top 10% of the agents do 90% of the business. What?
Yep.
Right now,
Crazy.
now you start looking at the numbers and you're like, holy smokes. So this do what you're made for. Here's the reason I say that. Yes, there are people who get their real estate license thinking that it's just a really simple, easy way to make a couple of extra bucks. I think it's wrong, but I mean, I think they people try to say, oh, it's a housewife kind of thing. Listen, I know some housewives that kill it in real estate that deliver exceptional real estate experiences, and frankly, between you and I can't imagine that there is not a better person for real estate business than a housewife.
For sure.
And we could spend an entire episode talking about that. What I get worried about are these people that just get their license. They're like, oh, I'm going to ride the chairlift, or I'm going to ride my bike. I'm going to do this thing, and they deliver nothing
Mhm.
of value. They
Mhm.
don't know what it is that they're made for. This is a sales position. I have to go out and I have to call. I have to pick up this thing called the phone, right? And I have to make phone calls, and I have got to talk to potential customers about what their challenges are. I've got to identify if I might be able to solve their challenges. And then I've got to have presentation skills adequate enough to be able to convey what it is that I think the solution is. And then I have to get it ready, ask for the business.
Yep.
This is called a sales position. And so what I get worried about is two things. Number one, I see people saying, well, I'm really good at this and I'm not very good at this. So I'm going to go and I'm going to work on my skills for this thing that I'm not good at.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's the opposite, right? I get it. We all want to be well balanced, but this is not what it means to be well balanced. There's enough leverage and outsourcing. What we really should be doing is to lean into the areas that we are strongest and capitalize on them, because that is what you were made for. Where I get
Boom.
concerned,
Yes.
yeah, where I get concerned is people then use that and they're like, well, I don't really like to make phone calls. No. That's the job, right? Prospecting
Yep.
is the job. What I'm talking about is, you are really good from a connections, and like I could put you in a room and you could make friends with every single person in about 10 minutes, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Listen, there are some people that's just not the way they work. They're more one-on-one. Great. Then lean into that. Create
Yep.
more one-on-one opportunities. Then
Yeah, and like you said, leverage what you're not good at, and yeah, this is a business, and people just think, okay, it's a sales job, so I got to be good at the sales skills. But no, it's like, okay, now we're not even talking about marketing, we're not talking about budgeting, we're not talking about planning and systems. Like it's very complex, and yeah, you got to figure out what you're good at in this business because there's so many different things you can do.
right. All right, number three, work how you work best. I love this one. You don't know this, but I actually told this story to a group of leaders a couple of weeks ago, and I used you. Uh, what I was talking about was I'm a 5 a.m. guy, right? Like that's just how I roll. If I don't get up at 5 a.m., I kind of beat myself up. That's probably wrong, but whatever. Like I feel bad and I feel like I didn't get done what I wanted to do. I follow my beast mode mornings. Like it's my thing. That's how I go, right? That's how I work best. And what I was
Yep.
talking about was that's not Keenan. That's not how Keenan rolls. Keenan rolls the way Keenan rolls. He's probably more of a night owl. We can dig into this whole circadian rhythm shit and about, at what ages, et cetera, et cetera. But like, it's real, right? You're not a 5 a.m. guy.
Oh yeah, yeah, and I'm not a guy who wants to sit in the office for 8 hours. And there's agents in our office who do that, and it works for them. I'm the kind of guy, get in here, get my shit done, get out and hang out with people and network and have fun and do business outside of the office. And yeah, I think that's very important. Yeah, do your business the way that you enjoy working in life, and or you're not going to do the business and you're just going to come into the office because you think you're supposed to, and then you sit here for 2 hours and do nothing. Like, you got to figure out what works for you.
Isn't that the thing though? Like you get into the business early on and you don't know, right? You don't know what you don't know. So you're like, I'm going to look over. I see somebody else that I admire, and so I'm just going to model after them, right? And hopefully that works for you. But if it doesn't feel right. You can feel it, right?
Hmm.
And so then you begin to change it. Like, how do you know? I don't know, man. It goes back to these excuses. How do you know that what you're doing is working how you work best versus sort of shucking the responsibility that's required in order for you to achieve the goals that you've set?
I think it's just time. I think it's time in the business, and putting in those hours and thousands of hours to then be able to go back and track and see, okay, what I did this year, was it good enough? And did I hit my goals? If I didn't, then I need to say, okay, well, maybe actually I do need to get back into the office more because I'm hanging out at the golf course too much. So I think it just takes time, and I think it just takes knowing yourself, and
Yeah,
um, and not lying to yourself, and thinking that what you're doing is enough because it's probably not.
yeah. We were talking about. I think we talked about this last week. But it was the humble, honest, and hungry. My three H's, right? You got to be humble enough to actually care what the answer is. You got to be honest enough to see the data and actually call yourself out if that's what needs to be. And then lastly, you need to be hungry enough to do whatever it takes to get it changed. I think that's kind of what you're saying is, hey, listen, track and measure it. It's actually number 4 here is count your time and make it count. But in the absence of understanding what the facts are, we're left with the emotion of it all. And boy, I tell you what, the emotional way of running your business is the one that says in December, over Christmas, you come up with your goals. And on January 1st, you get all excited and you're doing it and right. And I feel like I'm crushing the world. And you have no idea what the market is doing. Again, a rising tide lifts all boats, right? So you really don't know if you're outpacing the market or underpacing the market. You just feel good. It's all great. And then about October, you pull those goals back out and you look and you're like, oh, I missed them.
Yep. Oh
Right?
yeah. Yeah, and it's
And
being proactive and versus reactive. And in COVID, it was the exact same thing. It was, all right, we all made our business plans. Oh, dang, the world's changed. The real estate market has really changed. Our jobs have changed. We gotta be proactive and see those things and stay on top of it. And like you said, yeah, just continue to be in there, knowing, learning, changing, shifting, all of
yeah.
that.
All right, number 4, count your time and make it count. This is something I'm super passionate about. Can't wait to talk about this. But this is that idea that what is measured gets managed. In my space, it's time blocking. It's the chunks of time that we set aside, and then having the discipline to be real. I'll even call it relentless with that structure, so that the time is honored. So if it's prospecting time, nothing ever gets in the way of prospecting time. If it's date nights, nothing ever gets in the way of date nights, and so on and so
Amen.
forth. Yeah. So what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think yeah, but it comes back to honoring yourself, and if you're not believing in yourself and believing in your plan, you're not going to stick to those times. You're going to say, "Oh, prospecting time. Well, I got some other stuff that I got to worry about." Nah, man. Come on. You got to stick to the schedule.
Do you think this is one of the hardest things anybody ever does, though? Like, and
So hard.
why is it so hard?
Especially in this job, I mean, there's nothing in my day that's like I need to do this right now other than say it's, an inspection resolution date and we got to get the inspection resolution signed. Okay. Other than that, I can do whatever I want. And I think
Yeah.
that's what's tough about this job. And I think the people who elevate themselves or when money's tight, they're like, "Okay, I got to get to work," and they get hungry and kill it. The people who aren't hungry get out of the business.
Yeah, well, that's them. We see that, right? And it's part of the performance coaching that we do. Is hey, listen, nobody wants this is what their business does because they get a little busy, and then all of a sudden prospecting stops because they didn't really want to prospect, and what they really wanted to do was put out fires that really didn't need to be put out. I guess, but it's this weird deal. Like I do it, everybody does it. Like anybody
Everybody.
that says they're not doing it is totally full of shit. But it is super interesting. The best days ever for me are when I know exactly in advance, this is what time I'm getting up. Here are the 12 things I'm doing, first 2 hours. You looked at my schedule. It's funny. I probably look like sleeping with the enemy, but um, I mean, I'm super organized, and because I have very, very specific things that I want to have. I want to be a great dad. I want to be in great shape. I want to have a great business, and I would really like my wife to like me
That would
for
be nice. That'd be nice. Teach
decades.
me
And
how to do that because I'm working on it.
all right, all right. You have some pretty good role models in your life. So,
For sure.
uh,
For sure.
number 5, prepare better meetings.
Yeah, it goes back to don't practice on your clients and just leave it at that. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, that's kind of a mic drop moment. Gosh, man, this is super crazy. I see this all the time. In fact, I think this is the biggest miss. Like we talk about failure leaves clues. Oh man, like I think about listing presentations. I think the missed buyer presentations. We've just been talking about it, right? Like here we got all of these buyers. Everybody's like, I don't want any more buyers. I don't want any more buyers. Mm, but don't you? Like,
Oh, I
they're
I want
all,
all the buyers right now,
yeah,
man. Give me
send them
all the
all to me.
buyers. Yeah.
That's right. Send me all your buyers. Send me the ones that are tired and angry and weak and like just exhausted. Send them to me. I will have a conversation with them because I know exactly what my meeting is going to look like.
Yeah.
I know what we're going to talk about. I know what the interview questions are going to be. I know what the steps to success are. And we're not going to waste a bunch of time. It's going to be
Yep.
very, very specific. When that person is done having their meeting with me, they're going to go, holy shit, this guy is the agent that I want to work with, period.
Yep.
And I see that in leadership. I see that in, um, we were just talking about marriages, right? I mean,
Mhm.
it's in every aspect of our life. If we were to prepare better meetings, then the outcomes of the meetings that we have would be amazing.
Yeah, and I think you bring in a great point about buyers. I mean, even for myself, my buyer appointments are usually over the phone. Hey, what's up? What are you looking for? All these things where I need to make sure that I have the conversations with them about the market and explain what's going on and what to expect and setting expectations. And we do that on listing appointments. I mean, I'm great with my listing appointments. I take those very seriously. I've lost listings by going in, obviously just too chill. But buyers, yeah, I think that's a huge missed opportunity where we don't prepare for those. And we just answer the phone and say, okay, yeah, all right, 3 bedrooms, 2 baths. This is your budget. Cool. I'll get you set up on a search. Whenever you want to see something, give me a call. And you kind
Yeah.
of leave it at that. And that's not being prepared. That's not showing up to a meeting and blowing them away. And we need to do that with the buyers right now, man. Like, it's tough. And they
Yeah.
get frustrated. And there's a lot of agents who probably have been working with buyers for the past year and they didn't find anything. And people have given up and just said, well, I'm going to rent and I'm going to watch the market, see what the market does, and it's like, oh, you just lost money. You just lost out.
Well, not only they lose out, but somebody is responsible for it, right? And
Somebody
I don't,
is for
yeah,
sure.
I don't want to shine the spotlight too hard, but and there's no guilt here, but somebody didn't do their job to the level that they could have done their job, and so there should be a process. Like I sit down with Keenan the buyer and I say, hey, listen, what is it that you're looking for? Okay, well, let's look at that space. Well, here are the offers that are winning in that market. They're going to typically be about 12% over list price. They're typically going to be cash. They're typically going to have a 3-day inspection. There is no finance, like whatever whatever it is. Here's the expectations. Are you prepared for that? No. Okay. Well, can we help you get prepared for that? Yeah. Great. All right. So here are the steps that we need to take, and it's
Yep.
helping develop that plan. And of course, you should have your own preferred partners to be able to help execute on that plan. And this is how we're going to do it. Now, let's go and look at the MLS and kind of extrapolate what some of these products are. I need you to think out loud. We all know this dialogue, right? And then, oh, great, here's the portal. Let's go ahead and create your portal. So now you're going to be able to log in. You can make changes because what you think is right today may change tomorrow. And I want you to make sure that you're on it. And this updates every 5 minutes. And this is very, very important because you need to be the first person to know those things. And oh, by the way, here's the purchase and sale agreement. Let's read through it line by line by line by line so that we don't have any questions. Because when you find the property of your dreams, we're going to need to act fast. We're not going to be able to have the time to be able to do all this stuff. So we're going to check some boxes in advance. By the way, here's the language that I like to use to protect you on inspection releases. Here's the language I do for escalation clauses. Any questions about any of these things? Okay, so now let's develop the negotiation strategy. This is typically what I like. What do you like? Does that work for you? Like all of these things, right? And oh, by the way, once we're under contract is when really the heavy lifting goes. And here are the 43 things that I'm going to do once we're under contract. And last but certainly not least, here's my buyer representation agreement. And it says you will pay me X number of dollars. I got to be perfectly clear. In today's market, typically it's all good with the seller including that, but sometimes it's not. And that's going to be your responsibility. I'm going to earn my fee.
Totally. Why would I not sign a buyer agency agreement with you by after hearing that? And I think a big point of what you said is we sometimes with buyers right now because they are tough, we'll say, "Oh, this dang buyer I'm working with, they're just lowballing all these offers. Or they just don't understand and they're being ridiculous. That's our fault.
That's
That's
right.
our fault for not being upfront with them and giving them the information they needed at the beginning. But then we use that as, well, these buyers are tough to deal with. You should have had that conversation with them, and if you knew they were going to be difficult to work with, you would have known to begin with. But yeah, we just don't give them the information.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. All right. Number 6, make fewer decisions. This is a Tony Robbins thing. He's so funny. I'm going to butcher the story, but he basically is talking about this doctor. He's standing on the river, and somebody pulls out a drowning victim, right, from the river, and is there a doctor? And the doctor comes rushing over, and he brings the person back to life. And just about the time he's saved the first drowning victim, another one comes down. So he goes and attends to that person. And just about the time he saved that one's life, another one comes down, and another one. Just keeps going and going and going. And uh, all the while, he doesn't have the time to simply walk upstream and figure out why people are falling in the river.
Mm.
Right? All he's doing is dealing with the things that are coming at him. And so, and Tony uses this, this story to talk about how oftentimes we are allowing ourselves to be distracted by all of these other questions, all these decisions that need to be made that don't need to be made.
Mm-hmm.
And if they do need to be made, they may not need to be made by you. And I laugh about this all the time, right? Because we're 400 people or whatever it is, and so I will occasionally get an email or a voicemail that says, "Hey, dude, can you call me? I've got a problem, right? Or I got a question or whatever." And maybe it takes me an hour to call them back. And so an hour later, I call them back, and I'm like, "Hey, man, what's going on?" And they're like, "Oh, never mind, I got it all worked out."
All good. Yeah. All the time in this business. Yes.
All the
That
time.
happens. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And I think you can look at it from that aspect where it's like dealing with fires and stuff and not letting those things come into play, but also just there's so much we can do in real estate, and we're being taught by so many coaches, like our leaders, and there's all these different things we can do, but we just need to do something. Do anything.
Yeah.
Do.
Yeah. Well, and I think if you aren't doing the first 6 or 5 things, and then make number 6 is tough because you don't know which decisions you should be making, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you are managing your schedule and hey, this is my prospecting time, well, then I'm probably not going to be dealing with sales call, right?
Yep.
From somebody who's got the latest and greatest lead gen deal. You got to honor it, right? But I will say when we say success leaves um, uh, you know clues, but so does failure. The people that I watched really fail were the ones that have just been completely and totally distracted by every snake oil nonsense that we've ever seen.
Oh yeah. Yep. And just doing everything kind of half-assed. It's like, I should do video on Facebook. So they post a couple videos. They don't get a closing from it right away. And they say, okay, well, now I'm going to try this. And now I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
And they don't stick to a plan.
Yep. Yep. Exactly. All right. Find your distinctive impact. We're on the Distinctive Agent Show, after all. Find your distinctive impact. What's the one thing that you can do, that you can contribute, that you can teach, that will forever change your customer, your community, your family, your office, your life?
I think for me in real estate specifically, it's don't sweat the small stuff and don't let the outside noise distract you. Um, Go on and live your life. When something comes up and it's an issue, don't let it just paralyze you. I'm here to help you guys through this, and we will get through this transaction. You will get through this hard time of your life. And just keeping that positive mentality, and that for me is kind of my purpose of what I want to do is bring light to people, bring love to people, and help them out of this trap.
Yeah. What we do is so crazy. I think that the word I'm going to use is noble. I'm not even sure that's the right word, but like, these are people's homes. this is where, people, your kids are born, they take their first steps, they graduate from school,
Where we
marriages
find
happen,
peace, we go home
right?
and to our zen spots. Then yeah, it's massively important.
Massively, massively important. And this idea of being useful, from a career perspective, this is such a useful career. And sometimes I, sometimes I feel like people don't take it as seriously as maybe it should. And I would say that that is one of those areas where failure leaving clues. The ones that really didn't understand and didn't internalize how important this profession is to what we all believe is family, um, are the. I mean, I think they struggle.
Hmm.
So I would definitely say make sure that you are clear on the impact that you have. Make sure that you are clear on your personal secret sauce and what it is that you do, and use that to fuel your passion for delivering that exceptional real estate experience for
Oh yeah.
your customers and communities.
And that's why a lot of these newer agents aren't going to succeed, is because they came in with the mentality of easy money, and it can be, and it can be ridiculous money sometimes. But those people don't care about their clients like on an emotional level, and they're not going to get the referrals from those clients. They're not going to have that clients then say, "I'm going to sell my house in 2 years," and they don't think of Keenan right away because Keenan didn't really care. He wasn't that responsive. He just wanted to make a quick commission check.
And by the way, this will happen for those of you listening to him going, oh, no, it's not going to happen. I'm going to tell you right now, if you are not a professional, right? If you are not committed and focused and diligent and the knowledge broker and the trusted advisor and all of those things, this is what's going to happen. I watched it happen dozens of times. Um, Consumers would pick an agent based on we play golf together, right? Oh, they're part of my wine club. Oh, my wife told me, whatever, right? And then as soon as the market changed, it was no longer a popularity contest. They didn't care whether or not you were part of their wine club. They didn't care what their wife said. They wanted somebody that they believed, that they trusted was going to deliver the results that they needed and wanted and needed and maybe wanted and needed. Get it?
Yep. Yep.
Uh, uh, and they didn't care. And so they would end up listing properties with people that they may not have even liked,
Mm-hmm.
because they believed that that person had the ability to get the job done when their friend couldn't. So
Oh, for sure.
this is huge. This is
Oh,
huge.
it's going to be huge. It's a huge advantage for us agents who take it seriously and do a good job and cultivate that trust and relationships. And we need to go all in right now. I mean, that's why I'm hiring a full time assistant. Like, I'm ready to go all in and gobble up that market share.
I love that. I love that, by the way. We were just talking about this before we started, right? There's all these companies that are laying people off. All of these companies that are just cut, 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 cut. And what they're really saying is that we are further, these are already discount low to no service organizations that have all so-called disrupted the marketplace. We've all been talking about it, about this sort of race to the bottom. I was thinking about this story that my dad told me a long time ago. There were a series of cars, and they were on these dirt roads, and the first two cars ran off the mountainside. Right? I'm sure everybody was fine, but he learned a very valuable lesson. I think he was in the third car, and I said, "Well, why did the? I mean, I get how the first car runs off the the edge of the mountain, but like, how did the second one? Well, the second one just followed the first one.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, oh, whoopsie, right? And we're watching all of these companies that were just following each other. This race to the bottom. How low can we go in our expense side? How low can we go in what we're charging? That's going to be our value proposition. How little service can we deliver to the agents and the consumers and still get them to actually pick up the phone and use us? And boom, as soon as the market begins to change, all of a sudden these people are in real trouble.
Oh yeah.
And here you are talking about how no, yeah, the market's changing, and you're hiring. They're firing. You're hiring.
Oh yeah, it reminds me of how you started Coldwell Banker Distinctive Properties. You started it right during and after the recession, and you thought, okay, you know what? Yeah, this sucks. The market's really hard. But then your mindset flipped. I think you were at a bar and some guy told you that recessions happen all the time. And you're like, oh yeah, they do. This is maybe an opportunity for me. When COVID happened, I thought the same thing. I was like, damn, I started this year off hot. Like, this sucks, man. Like, I was going to have a huge year. And you said, no, you're still going to. All these agents are not working right now because they're scared and they don't know what's happening. And I went out and kicked ass and had a huge year. And so I think, yeah, for anyone during any time when there's like this uncertainty, uncertainty just brings opportunity.
Amen. Amen. Love that you remember that story. All right, number 8, stop what you wouldn't start. Stop what you wouldn't start. So, we do this annually as part of our business planning process with all of our agents and leaders for that matter. But we talk specifically, we go through the stop, start, more, less exercise. What do I need to stop doing that's getting in the way of me achieving my goals? What do I need to start doing that I'm not currently doing that will help me get to my goals? What am I doing that's working that I could do more of to get more? And what is it that I'm doing that's not working that I need to do less of to get out of the middle of my success? I just love how they have Drucker words it. Stop what you wouldn't start. If there's something that you were doing today that if you were really look at it and go, you know what, I would not start this today. That's
Mm-hmm.
probably a pretty good signal that there's some kind of a sacred cow or just the way we've always done it. That doesn't necessarily mean it's the right thing to do.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean, we you can look at that from an emotional standpoint of what are maybe some of the negative things that I put into my body that affects my mind, or what am I listening to? What am I watching that's negatively affecting my mood, my mind? And then from a business perspective, it's getting down to the nitty gritty of it and saying what is working. Is this $500 I'm spending to Zillow doing anything for my business? No, I should maybe stop it. I haven't closed a deal with them. I should maybe save that money and invest it somewhere else. But yeah, it goes back to tracking. We need to track and measure so we know, because we sometimes just don't know.
We don't know.
It's the
And then
obvious
it's
things where it's like, Keenan, you should probably play less Xbox during the workday. Okay, I know that one. That's
sure.
pretty easy. I'm not generating a bunch of leads with guys on Call of Duty as they're calling my mom bad stuff, So that's probably not who I need to go after. But
No,
there's those obvious ones that I think that we have, but we need to go back into our plans and actually look. I need to go and see, is posting on Instagram and Facebook every single day a benefit for my business or not? And I know it's a benefit. I can track it and I can measure it. And just from the conversations I have with people, I know it works.
right.
Um, but yeah, tracking and measuring.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So it all kind of goes back to the data, doesn't it? So stop what you wouldn't start. You can do that on an emotional feel, or you can do it based on the data, the real. Real is always better than feel, but you won't know. You don't manage what you don't track. The and who was I just talking to? And we were talking about like marketing. What in marketing? What's working? What's not working? And obviously we're paying attention to all this stuff, and we do a lot of marketing for the agents. And so, we know right now that direct mail not really working that great because there's so many people doing direct mail.
I'm getting
And
so
so,
many. It's annoying. And me as a millennial who's in like the biggest home buyer group out there ever, yeah, no, don't send me that. I'm going to look at it and say trash, trash, trash.
right. And so because there's so many of them, it's hard to stand out in the whole, the whole idea. So doing it differently. And what we were talking about was, if you did I don't know, QR codes, and what's the difference between long format and short format video, and how do you get this in the hands, and how do we utilize database management? And I'm not talking about your CRM necessarily, although that's great, but there are ways to get data of the people that live on a particular street and develop some relationships there and aggregate some of their content or their data so that I can be hand delivering, if you will, that content to them. So it's not direct mail. So right now, it's higher quality and lesser quantity.
Yep. Higher
But
quality, I think, is huge. But I also think if you're not involved in the community at some
right,
capacity, if you're just sending mailers to random neighborhoods and expecting it to pan out for you, yeah, you might get a deal or two from it, maybe. But like my mailers are going to my neighborhoods and my golf community, to the people that then say, "Hey, I got your market update. That's pretty crazy that the market's doing X, Y, and Z." Where you actually have those conversations. Because if you're just sending out mail, it's kind of like phone book, like just
yeah,
calling random people. It's
that's well said. What's a FOMA? Never heard that. All right, number 9, run lean. Always cut. The accomplishment of a single person in a key seat far outweighs and outperforms the accomplishment of the combined seats of multiple B players. In other words, A players can do a hell of a lot more than a bunch of B players run lean.
Yep. Yeah, I think that can be from just perspective of finances, where you run lean, run smart, but also from a perspective of who you're around, and the company you're with, and the I'm at a company with Coldwell Banker Distinctive Properties where the energy is amazing, and I come in and I get energy and the message is positive. So like I'm running lean because I'm like with these people running lean.
Yeah.
That might be completely different than what you were thinking with this question. So let's hear what you
That's
think.
no, I think that's why we do it. Well, I mean, I think about like COVID. I think about 2009 when things were really like failure leaves clues, right? So the world sort of quote unquote came to an end in October, November of 2008. But I don't think, I think from maybe it was ego. I don't even know, to be honest with you. I'd have to probably go back. My therapist probably needs to work on that with me. But there was a period of time that I knew that the light at the end of the tunnel was a train, and yet I did nothing to get out of the way of
Mm,
it. And so when COVID hit, I was very proactive, and that was a lesson. That was one of those clues that was left in the failure of what I had not done, which was cut expenses. And it probably was largely because I didn't want to be perceived as somebody that was quote unquote failing. When the truth is if you don't leading an organization, leading your business, leading your family is not for the meek. Okay,
yep.
it requires huge, stones and guts to be able to make the
Sacrifice.
decisions. That's right, to make the decisions that most people don't want to have to be forced to make.
Yep.
And so
It is ego. It's all ego.
yeah, I took the lessons of failure from 2009. Now, listen, it all worked out okay, right? But and I said, hey, listen, when COVID hit, we were on it, right? Phase 1, phase 2, Armageddon, and what that would look like right now, as the market is changing, would be to say, hey, listen, if the market changed 10%, if you made 10% less revenue, what would you need to do from a budgeting perspective to make sure that your business is profitable?
Yep.
If the market changed 20%, what would you need to do? If the market changed 30%, what would you need to do? Come up with 3 different phases. Now, put that plan together now so that if the market really does adjust to that level, you're not doing anything emotional. You're just simply
Yep.
instituting a plan that you're already prepared for. You're already running lean. You're cutting the areas that needed to be cut. We all know the exercise. We do it every once in a while. We go through our credit card statements and we're like, holy shit, I'm still paying that. You know, you,
Truebill is really really good for that. If you're not on Truebill, it's a free service that tracks every single service that you're paying for, and sometimes I'm like, damn, I forgot to cancel that. Like for that
that's
one
right.
show we watched, and I'm paying
That's right.
$15 a month.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
But
I think lenders needed to hear you say that about 2 years ago, because the refinance boom has been great. I think we've talked about it before, how I've spoken with lenders right now and they're just kind of in the dumps, like, oh, it's so hard. The rates are going up. Buyers are like not buying as much and we're not getting all the refis. And it's like, yo, you should have known this was going to happen. You thought interest rates were going to stay forever at 2.75. Like, you're a fool. Like, you should have been saving. And for this moment, where right now, then you could say, it's all going to be good. Rates are probably
Right.
going to go back down in a year or two. So I just got to get through this couple of years and be ready to go. And but they didn't do that. A lot of lenders are just, they kept in spending money and
Mhm.
didn't have that plan, and now they're feeling it and they're scared.
Yeah, they fail to manage thyself, right? Yeah, the lending industry is very similar to the brokerage industry, where you've got people who, I mean, just a tremendous number of people became loan officers during the boom, for sure. And you know, the opportunities that were available to consumers in 2010 were amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I'll just say that they were amazing. People that were able to buy in 2010 got one heck of a deal, and good for them. And
Yep.
there were some folks that sold their properties, and that, thank God, right? But whether we're going to succeed or whether we're going to fail will largely depend on how we continue to keep our eye on how we're running,
Yep.
cutting the areas that don't mean anything. You hit it right. Remove your ego. It doesn't matter if that full page spread in your local magazine isn't bringing you diddly. Stop doing it. Like,
Mm-hmm.
oh my gosh, but if I stop doing it, then the people at the magazine are going to think less of me, and I'm in a small town and everybody's doing it. Hey, enough of that. Manage thyself. Do only the things, right? Stop doing what you wouldn't start. In today's market, would you start putting that full page ad in the magazine? If the answer is not a resounding yes, then stop it.
Yeah,
Stop it.
and like you said, direct mail. If you've been sending out direct mail and you're paying hundreds and hundreds of dollars each month to send these out, and you've been doing this for a while and you're having no return, it might be time to figure out a different way to do it and leverage social media, leverage video, which is free.
Bam. At least for now. All right, number
Yeah.
10. Number 10, be useful. A great teacher can change your life in 30 seconds. Be
Yeah.
useful.
That just goes to knowing what you're talking about and studying the market and seeing the trends and being there every day, going to your office meetings, knowing your numbers, and then when someone has a question, it's not, you don't just give them a very generic real estate answer. They're asking you a real estate question. How's the market? They have thoughts. They want to know. So don't just say, "Oh, it's tough. It's interest rates, who knows what's going to happen." That gives them nothing. That gives them zero clarity. They are looking for some clarity because you are saying you are the real estate expert that they're supposed to use, and you're not actually giving them any information that's useful. What are you doing? What's your point? Like, what's your role if you're not
Yeah.
giving them info?
Well, and I think what I hear you saying is it's not just about giving them info. Like, you could hit a little button on a robot and get the company line. It's changing a life. It's
Mm-hmm.
it's asking better questions. What's going on at the market? Well, what do you mean? Where? And what are you thinking? And what's your challenge? And what solution? Oh, okay. Well, given that information, let me help you. And here's the data points, right? Here's giving. It's
Exactly. I just had a guy
deep.
message me on Instagram and he said, "Hey, I was wondering what your thoughts are on the market." And I kind of messed up because I gave him my thoughts on the market where he was kind of hoping to hear, like, "Oh, I think the market's going to go down," because he wants to buy another house. And so I should have asked, "Why are you asking this?" "Oh, because you want to buy an investment property." Well, in your situation with an investment property, it all kind of just depends. Like, if you buy something and you don't have tenants in it for a year, are you going to be okay? If so, yes, here's the info that I can give to you based off that, instead of just giving maybe the info that we have in our head from our office meeting. It's making it directly useful for them.
Yeah. Yeah, and that statement, that be useful statement, just it travels like it doesn't live in a box. There's so many different places that you can be useful. It could be something as simple as picking up a piece of trash that you typically would step over on the street, right? Not my job. Be useful. Going the second and third mile on a transaction to deliver a great experience for the kids, right? That are always, or not always, oftentimes forgotten in this whole real estate process. It could be,
Watching your
stopping.
neighbor's house when they're out of town,
Right. Yeah,
being
it's
useful.
being useful, like be useful. And just these little teeny things can have such massive impacts. And you can literally, just simply by being useful, even when you're completely lost, right? I think that's when, if I were to go back into 2010, up until about the middle of 2010, I was lost. The only thing I could do every day was just sort of get up and find somebody that needed something and just try to do it. I didn't even know if it was the right thing. I just needed to be useful. And one thing leads to another thing. It leads to a passion that leads to a way of thinking that leads to a total mindset that leads to a total structure that leads to an idea that leads to the phoenix rising of our organization. That frankly in 2010, I mean, we were a couple of people, three, four, five, six people in 2010. 400 today, one office then, 15 offices today. Like this stuff works.
Yep.
These success does leave clues. Today we're talking about the so do failures. They leave
Mhm.
clues. So cool.
Yep. And yeah, I think with you, it's just it's an inspiring thing to look at that you were lost. And that's okay, because we all are there. A lot of us are there right now. But if we get up and actually do something useful, be useful to somebody, change a life, like you will get business from it, and your life will be better. You'll find more meaning and you'll find more purpose, and it might not be right away, because we don't know. But 10 years from now, you might have a company of 500 people. That's crazy. That's just like, that just is motivation for people like me who, yeah, are just in this day to day thing and sometimes not exactly sure. We don't know where we're going. As long as we stay kind of on that right path and be useful and be caring and get ourselves out there, sky is the limit.
The sky is the limit, and God's got His plan for you. And boy, I tell you what, at the end of the day, it will blow your socks off because certainly, as you said, like I never set out to create this organization. I certainly was not the man for the job, but He had different plans, and so here we are. And boy, let me tell you, we are not done yet. So,
Yes, sir. I love it.
all right, brother. Well, hey, appreciate you as always. Hey, y'all, it's the Distinctive Agent Show. Go out there and be distinctive.
Yes, go get stuff done. Let's go.